Hello, the mask is back, and we have a actually underrated card. It's honestly, more surprisingly stacked than people think, but it's still like obviously missing a couple good fights, like BSD versus Joel Alvarez and Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales, stuff like that. Obviously got canceled, to no fault of UFC on the part of scheduling for the Apex. They just didn't have a main event for next week. And Joel Alvarez got an arm injury. But still, it's annoying when fights get canceled on a card that was going to be pretty great, but now it's just decent. So, honestly, quite underrated on the fans' part. But yeah, certainly understandably frustrating from the fans' perspective because lots of these fights are probably going to be decision, and also you could probably tell which ones I've researched and which ones I haven't because some of these fighters I've done a lot of research for, and some of these I've done very little. So you'll see, just because I've not had a lot of time on my hands this time around, but let's just jump into it. Brad Katona and Beksat Almakhan. Um, this one is really, really tough, to be honest. And I understand that Bexal Omicron could KO Brad Katona just because, he throws with such ferocity. But I'm actually going to go with the underdog in Brad Katona here. Now, I know that this is a risky pick here, but I'm seeing his ability to grapple, and I understand it's nowhere near the ability that an Umar had. But the difference between Bexat, uh, his perceived ability to get up and the idea that just because he's in there with Umar, that automatically means that he must be pretty good with takedown defense. It's just not really a true statement. Like, he actually didn't really have any such ability to get up. And I understand that Umar is a very strong, bulky guy, and on top his pressure is nasty and he just it's like a boulder on top. I get that. I saw that just off of he's very skilled on the ground for sure when it gets there. I mean, you could see that against Beksat Almakan, but Beksat was just kind of I guess what you would call like um pushing at the hips. When he was on bottom, he was just kind of like pushing Umar up, and when he was doing that, it was just like, not really working. And I think that Brad Katona is going to try and implement a sort of decision fighting type of game plan as well there. And I think that ultimately it's going to be quite similar to an Umar Nurmagomedov fight with obviously less domination. That was a 30-26, mind you. So the reason why I'm going with Brad Katona is because I think that he's going to have that kind of pressure game on top quite similarly. And then Daniel Santos versus Yong Yong Lee. That is such a freaking confusing name. It sounds like both the first two words there of the name are the exact same in pronunciation. But this one, I mean, you could tell by what I'm gonna say here that I don't really have a lot to say, and I haven't done a lot of research. But I'm going with Daniel Santos. Ultimately, I'm gonna pick the guy that that can actually move his head and hit with some decent power. Now, granted, he has had some decisions, but I believe he has he missed weight? No, no. I thought that that was also something. I think I'm thinking of a different fighter up on the card, and yeah, I mean, look, Yeong Lee. I have only seen his Hydra Meal fight, or was it Hydra Meal? Let me just double check here. Yeah, and he basically was brawling, and 90% of his punches were not landing, and the ones that were just, Hydra Meal was walking through them. They weren't having a great deal of effect, and I'm gonna pick the guy that can hit hard, and I understand that he's a shorter guy and that he's probably not as technical, and the reach and the height, all that is a problem for Daniel Santos. It's gonna be hard for him to get inside, but I just think that against the guy that doesn't move his head, it's going to be a field day for him trying landing these strikes. Trying to land. I don't even think he has to try to. I think it's going to be quite easy for him to hit the target. Marc-Andre Barriault versus Bruno Silva. This one I've gone so back and forth on. I'm gonna go with Marc-Andre Barriault, but it's a really, really tough one because one thing we have to keep in mind here is Bruno Silva, sometimes he just explodes, and Marc-Andre Berriut has a terrible chin. Now, it could also be due to the fact that these guys are hard hitters that he's getting knocked out by, but one thing we also, and then also that they're throwing with a lot of force and just loading up with these punches, but another thing that we have to take into consideration here is that ultimately, I mean, he's getting flattened in his last two. And against Chris Curtis, he also took some decent damage. So he's been taking damage, and that's not great to see from Marc-Andre Barrios. And a guy that likes to box and stay in the pocket, that's also not a great thing to notice. And the only reason I'm going with him here is that Bruno Silva in his last two fights against Nurdiev, I believe it was, Ismail Nurdiev, and what was it, Chris Weidman? Yeah, who's actually retired, I think. He actually showed no ability to actually go for it. He just kind of stood there like a statue. And at the very least, against Sharamagomedov, he was actually going for takedowns, but in his last two fights, he just kind of wasn't doing anything. So I don't expect him to do much more in this fight. He might explode more in moments because Marc-Andre Barriault will give him those moments compared to Ismail Nurdiev and maybe Chris Weidman, but Chris Weidman is kind of a similar style, I guess, to Marc-Andre Barriault, at least in the hands. And you could see in that fight, he just wasn't really able to get anything meaningful off on that fight. So, granted, he got eye poked to oblivion, but still, I think that, he's not going to get any better at 35. And, Marc-Andre Barriault's a few months younger, okay? So, I'm going to go with decision for Barriault here. And Navajo Sterling versus Ivan Urslan. Now, listen, I understand this is a terrible pick, but I'm always gonna pick the Croatians, okay? I'm always. It's just a bias that we have, what's his name? Kenny Okoye is gonna pick the Nigerians. Um, Bedtime MMA is gonna pick the Australians. MMA Guru is gonna pick the British. Okay, I'm gonna pick the Croatians. That's just how it is. And Ivan Urslan, but I have a good reason to. I understand that he's likely gonna lose this one, but I have a good reason here. And that reason is Navajo Sterling. I understand that he has the height and reach, okay, but let me cook a little. And by the way, that height is actually kind of not right, I feel. Ivan Urslan is actually like the same height at the weigh-ins it looked like, if only just at the very most a half inch shorter. But I understand Navajo Sterling is training at CKB and he has good kickboxing and he has all these guys like Israel Adesanya F to sort of give him that experience, because Israel Adesanya has that championship experience. I understand that he has a lot of great guys in the gym and he has a great kickboxing background and all that, but if we actually look at the guys that he's been fighting a bunch of tomato cans and Tuco Tokos, the GOAT, okay? Now, I know that Tuco Tokos is the GOAT, but he's not Ivan Urslan, and Ivan Urslan has great KO power. He has finished a ton of fights in the first round, especially KO. And Ivan Urslan, I think he's going to go for it in the first round. I think he's going to realize, hey, I need to actually get a win in the UFC. I lost to Ian Cutelaba because I was being too patient, and I wasn't ready for the bright lights, but I think this time he's gonna realize, hey, I need to go for it. And in the weigh-ins, he looked really locked in. So, and I know that I said that for the maybe I didn't make a video for this, but I know that I said that to myself when I was making predictions against Ian Cutelaba for him. I was saying, oh, he's locked in. Look at him in the face-offs. He was unfazed by Ian Cutelaba, but this time he looks actually like serious, and he has a great physique. So does Navajo Sterling, but like he looks like he's actually like locked in, ready to go, and he's gonna make at least a an attempt at a streak. So I'm gonna go with the first round KO for Ivan Urslan. And I understand that Navajo Sterling's good, but he got hit sometimes. Listen, he's definitely a good kickboxer, and he definitely can win this fight, and he should be the favorite. But I'm going off of a puncher's chance, which I don't normally go for. Okay, I don't usually, but I'm gonna go for it because. I mean, I'm sorry, Tuco Toka's landing shots on you. I feel like the much more athletic, much more explosive Ivan Urslan can do that and get the KO blow in those moments where Tuco Tokos lands. and then Ian Cutelaba versus Modestas Bukauskas. This is another tricky fight. Um, Modestas Bukauskas, this is interesting, man. This is really interesting. Modestas, he drops his hand sometimes, and he gets caught when he's going forward sometimes. But against these guys that are much more technical than Ion Cutelaba on the feet, Ion kind of just explodes with big meaty hooks on the feet sometimes. He can throw a jab sometimes as well, but it's usually hooks, big meaty hooks and overhands. But he's fast, and primarily what we're looking at here with Ion Cutelaba as a guy that could win this fight. I'm genuinely surprised that most people see. This is why people don't. This is why I know that people don't watch tape. At least a lot of these fans picking on Tepology, because if you actually look here, a lot of people are picking KO for Ion Cutelaba, and I understand that he definitely has had some a fair share of KOs, but he lately has been going to his grappling a lot more. Got an arm triangle, I believe it was, in the Ibo Aslan fight, and even in the Ivan Erslan fight, he used the grappling to win as well. And so he has really good trips. That's going to be his path to victory because for Modestas Bukauskas, we don't really know how he is off of his back. We know on top he's pretty good. I mean, he got an arm triangle, I'm pretty sure, against Marcin Prachnio as well, of his own. So, him getting an arm triangle of his own shows that he's quite capable, but off his back, it's the question, because Ian Cutelaba has some very good trips. Very good trips. That's usually how he gets to the takedown. Sometimes he gets some double leg or single leg, but usually he likes the trips. And Modestas, he kind of went for the finish against Rafael Sequeira in his last fight, and that was quite impressive too, to show that he actually has that killer instinct early on in the fight. And he definitely is the more technical guy, although he, like I said, he definitely lets his hands go low sometimes. And he did get rocked through, I believe it was just a short hook against oh man, Vitor Prachnio, that's right. And, Ian Cutelaba could certainly catch him just with an explosion, but I really, what ultimately I see here is Ian Cutelaba maybe getting a couple takedowns early, but then I see Modestas landing on the chin when Ian's a little more gassed in the second round, because I feel like he's maybe not as powerful as a Ivan Erslan Bukauskas, but he is more technical. I feel a little bit more technical. And so I think he's going to find the shots, and he's going to be more accurate, and he's going to put him away in the second round. So I'm going to say a second round KO for Modestas against Ion Cutelaba. I mean, Felipe Lins was having a field day with counters against Ion coming in at moments, so I definitely think that Bukauskas is a pretty good underdog, even though he's only so slightly an underdog. And then Jessica Andrade versus Jasmine Jusidovicius. I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, this is a pretty easy pick for me here. Jasmine, she's not particularly amazing in any department, but she's on a roll. She is, in fighting years, a lot younger. Now, granted, she is older, but she has a lot less mileage. She hasn't been dropped or KO'd a ton lately. Um, and she's only lost to Tracy Cortez and Natalia Silva, who's also on this card, who's, a very impressive, one of the few talented, truly talented women's MMA fighters that is coming up these days. And, another thing that we have to consider with Jasmine is she has the insane reach and height advantage. And I know that I wasn't looking at that for a Navajo Sterling Ivan Erslan fight, the height and reach as much. But one thing that we have to consider with this one is women's MMA, you're not as likely to get the KO. Jessica Andrade, the difference between her and an Ivan Erslan is she's not going to go for it as much, and she doesn't have the power as much. I don't think so. Um, Maybe she can land a Hail Mary slam or something, but that was way closer to her prime when she had that moment against Rose Namajunas. And Jasmine, she's competent on the grappling herself, so I feel like she might actually go for such things. Maybe not a slam, but she's gonna try and secure some control time against the fence on the ground. And I think that she's gonna ultimately win a competitive, I would say competitive, but ultimately clear two 30-27s and a 29-28. Maybe not a 30-27, but I could definitely see one judge at least, or two, one or two, some kind of variation of that, giving it a 30-27. I don't think it's going to be nearly as dominant as the Natalia Silva one, but no question that Jasmine should be the favorite. That's not a question in my mind. I think it's a pretty clear pick and a clear favorite. Mike Malott, Charles Radke. I mean, what do we have to say about this one? I mean, Charles Radke, he's definitely got a chance here, no question, and I definitely think he's got the boxing. And so if he cuts off Mike Malott with his kicks and his takedowns, and he, stuffs the takedowns, cuts off the cage when he goes for the kicks, and then Mike Malott is kind of screwed with the boxing, I definitely think he could get the job done. But you know, is Mike Malott washed? Is he not as good as people thought? I don't know. I mean, I know that it's embarrassing to lose to Neil Magny in the way that he did, but if we're being honest, he was going for the finish a lot in the second round, and in the first round he was going for it as well. So, I mean, I think he's learned from that. I think the way he's been speaking these days on the media day as well in the embedded, UFC embedded, I think he's really showing a maturity here that he's not, overly hyping himself like he did in the UFC 297 press conference, for example. He's a lot more calm and composed. So I'm gonna have to say Mike Malott decision here. I could definitely see a submission if he gets Charles Radke down, and he progresses to a he does like guillotines. He does like some back takes in moments, but I'm gonna say a decision. And Charles Radke, like I said, he has that power. He has that boxing advantage, no question. And even still, even if he loses the first two rounds, he does have the chance in the third. But yeah, this is a pretty clear decision here. BSD, Kyle Prepelic. I mean, need I say more? I mean, I'm gonna go with submission um, just for the mere fact that Kyle Prepelic is coming in on short notice, and he has a pretty mid record, pretty bad, to be honest. And I mean, it's just a rough one to come in on short notice when he's got the grappling, he's got the striking edge, even. Just the only thing to worry about it with BSD is his chin after taking so much damage. Not just in the Moicano fight, but in the Poirier fight, in his first fight in UFC against the Brazilian in welterweight. Yeah, he's just a damaged guy, and he mugs you with his ability to take such damage. But I'm gonna go with submission just because there's not a lot of opportunity to go for submission. So on this card at least, so I'm gonna have to say a submission round one. I don't think Kyle Prepelic's very proven, and it's just such a tough test to go up against. And we haven't seen a lot of subs for Benoit, and so I think that seeing as he took a lot of damage in his previous fights, I think he's gonna want to shoot immediately. I think that's what he's gonna do. I think he's gonna be way more hesitant to strike, and he's gonna try and knowing that he has a easier opponent than Joel Alvarez, he's gonna actually want to shoot, and he's gonna want to secure top position, and then maybe get the back and then get a rear naked choke, something like that. First round sub. Alexa Grasso, Natalia Silva. I've gone back and forth on this one. Oh man, I've watched all Natalia Silva's fights prior to this one, all of hers in the UFC. This is the one UFC fight in women's MMA that I'm actually super stoked to see. Alexa Grasso should not be that big of an underdog. I see this as like for Natalia Silva, like a minus 150 or something. That's how close this is. I mean, Alexa Grasso, the thing is, why is nobody talking about this in the lead up to this fight? Joanne Wood, um, before the Valentina Shevchenko fight, she got off of a spinning back fist or a spinning back elbow. She got the back take and got the rear naked choke against Joanne Wood, who is not known for her spinning attacks as much, nearly as much not nearly as much as a Natalia Silva or a Valentina Shevchenko. And then against Valentina Shevchenko, one that is also known for her spinning back kicks. Um, she got the timing and she got the back take. And then Natalia Silva against a I believe it was the Czech lady, Teresa Beldia or whatever. She was she actually timed Natalia Silva's spin and she got the back for a whole round. And then the second round, she actually managed to get a takedown as well. It was a different takedown. She got the hips and she got her down, but or it might have been I think it was Natalia Silva went for a judo trip and she ended up on bottom. But either way, Alexa Grasso, man, I mean Natalia Silva and Alexa Grasso, these are two of my favorite female fighters, especially Natalia Silva, and they're both Christian, so I mean based. Um, and Alexa Grasso is Catholic, so I mean extra, little extra base there. Um, and I mean, listen, Alexa Grasso, she has decent boxing, she has decent pressure. If she pressures Natalia Silva and she gets uncomfortable, and then boom, Alexa Grasso times that spin, and then she gets the back, she sinks in that rear naked so well. I could totally see a submission here for Alexa Grasso. And oh man, if she gets to the rear naked choke, I will be so mad with myself because I went so back and forth on this one. This is the fight I've actually watched so much film on because these are the two female fighters that are in like my top five most excited female fighters. And that's saying something because most female MMA isn't that great. So when I'm actually this stoked for a women's MMA fight, you know that this is actually something to look forward to. But I'm gonna have to say a closely fought 29-28. See, the problem with MMA community sometimes is they look at a decision as a boring fight. I 29-28 or 30-27 from Natalia Silva is never boring. Even in the ones where she doesn't get knocked down, she's always landing some spinning attacks and some fast reflex hooks or jabs, or usually hooks she throws. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Alexa Grasso has the better boxing, but Natalia Silva can land these beautiful fast hooks. And yes, Natalia Silva loads from the hips sometimes, and they can be kind of somewhat telegraphed at moments. But uh, man, she has such a speed. I feel she's the most fast flyweight. I feel she's super fast for the weight class. And I mean, man, I'm just stoked for this fight. I'm gonna regret if I don't pick Grasso, but and she gets the back take. But man, I could totally see this playing out like Alexa Grasso gets the back take maybe in the first round or the second. And then she just secures a round off that. Maybe Natalia Silva has some good, defense of the chokes, and she just holds onto the back and she loses that round. And then Natalia Silva wins two of the others just off of good judo throws, good sprawling on the takedowns using the cage because she has shown good takedown defense. It's just that the spin is the worrying thing for me, and as well as the pressure because Alexa Grasso's a good boxer and she keeps her hands high up. So lots of these hooks that Natalia Silva's going to throw and a lot of these head kicks are going to be blocked. It's an incredible fight, and I really hope that I don't regret picking Natalia Silva. I just feel like she's definitely that next level in the striking. So I'm gonna lean on damage to Natalia Silva. She's championship material. I think that she could beat both the women in the what is it, the co-main. Jose Aldo, Amin Zahabi. The weight miss is interesting, no question, but I think that considering that Jose Aldo is a pound over and that he was the reason why they went to featherweight here, or catchweight, whatever you want to call it, I believe it's featherweight. Yes, and seeing as he was the reason, it definitely shows that he's the bigger guy going into this, seeing as he couldn't cut the weight. Obviously he doesn't look as good as Ayman Zahabi on the weigh-ins, but I mean, Ayman Zahabi, he fights like he's hunched over, like he's ready for a body shot to hurt him, and he does have these elbows when his guard is down. I mean, when he has the high guard, he does have the elbows blocking his liver, blocking his body quite well at moments, but it's still there, and he definitely has a long chest area and abs area to target, which Jose Aldo loves to do with the knees, with the big meaty hooks to the body. And Jose Aldo is a really, really solid Muay Thai fighter, even at this old age of his. I'm gonna have to say a clear cut 30-27 for Jose Aldo, just because even though we know that he has the capability to TKO people to the body and even rock people to the head, which we saw in the third round against Martinez, I just feel like, a safe bet with Jose Aldo is a decision. And don't get me wrong, he's going to be the heavier guy, so he could definitely carry that pop. But I feel like he's going to get a clear-cut 30-27. Ayman Zahabi's going to try and put the pressure on, but he just doesn't have the power or the grappling, I feel, like a Mario Bautista. So, I mean, we'll see. I think that he's definitely, he's shown that motivation in all the media day stuff. He's always smiley. He's always professional. He's saying the right things, but I just think that Aldo's better. I mean, that's just it. Sometimes you got to look at the skills over the talking. I mean, crazy, I know, crazy to say that you got to look at the skills over the talk, but it is a truthful statement there. A truthful statement. And another truthful statement is that Shevchenko should not be the underdog here. What is happening? I mean, yes, she's shorter. Yes, she's not as big. Yes, she is maybe a little bit less good in the kickboxing fundamentally. But I don't know, man. If you look back at some previous fights of Men and Fiorot against Jennifer Maya, I believe her name is, coming up from a takedown, a defended takedown, she got caught bad with a head kick. In the fifth round, when Blanchfield was losing, she friggin' got her with in the fifth round a head kick, and that was arguably the most significant strike of that round. And you look at Valentina Shevchenko, she has really nice head kicks. I understand this is Jessica Ai, and she's super old, and she's not nearly as good, and this is an older opposition, but she landed a beautiful head kick against her, and set it up really good. Kicks to the body and then it come upstairs. Um, her blast double legs and single legs against um, Alexa Grasso, I can't believe I almost forgot there, were amazing. Now, I understand that Menan Fiorot has really good takedown defense, and we've seen her also, similarly to Natalia Silva, have good judo throws as well. But, man, against Valentina with those amazing double legs, it's hard to see me. I mean, it's hard for me to see Menan Fiorot stuffing all of them if need be. If she need be gets the takedown. You know what I'm trying to say. If Shevchenko needs the takedown, I think she'll probably get at least one. And Shevchenko can certainly hold her own on the feet, no question. She still has that fast, explosive, like buoyancy, that quick twitch muscle fiber in the Muay Thai that she has. She still sticks to that, and she's really good at that fast twitch Muay Thai that she does. And she has these good spinning attacks against Menon. I don't think that she has to confine those skills. She doesn't have to worry about that nearly as much. And yeah, I think that this is going to be a closely fought 48-47. No question that Menon Fiorot. I originally thought that she's gonna beat Shevchenko, but looking back at tape, seeing that Menon Fiorot actually doesn't have the best defense, she just kind of gets away with things off of being the longer, rangier fighter, and that she in her last fight she was doing great against a girl like Erin Blanchfield because she just doesn't have the fast, quick twitch takedowns that Shevchenko showed in her last fight. Aaron Blanchfield doesn't have the striking. She just kind of brawls ahead, and sometimes that works, but against Menon, most of that was just kind of whiffing at air. And sometimes she was landing just off of brawling as well, so that's not a good sign for Menon Fiorot. Whereas Valentina Shevchenko got dropped in the second fight against Alexa Grasso, who we know has great boxing for women's MMA, and Shevchenko even still won the majority of all three of those fights. So I mean, yeah, I think that the boxing, Muay Thai, and kickboxing is all close enough. It's sort of a Ian Gary versus Carlos Prates sort of situation where it's like, in hindsight, Ian Gary could do a lot more, and so can Shevchenko. So I'm going to base this on the fighter who can just keep the fight, be more comfortable in wherever the fight goes. I feel like Menon is not going to be quite as comfortable in wherever the fight goes. Now, don't get me wrong, Menon Fiorot is similar to Ayman Zahabi, is also keeping a good mindset. She seems way more focused than a Valentina Shevchenko, who is more focused on the talk, it seems. But I just think skill for skill, Shevchenko's better. I mean, yeah, obviously mentality is certainly a factor in all these kinds of fights, but you know, it's only 20% of it, I feel. And then JDM versus Belal Muhammad. I remember the name now. I didn't before, and the memes are funny, but listen, Belal is good, and I'm gonna remember the name. You know why? Because he's gonna get the job done again, and he's gonna prove why he's better than Islam Makhachev. He's gonna prove why he's better than most of these welterweights, except for Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's gonna prove why he's better than JDM, and he's gonna prove why, welterweight's just different. And I'm just saying that the Islam Makhachev comparison. I'm just saying that he's gonna prove that he's better than a guy like Islam Makhachev because Islam is not willing to face the top guys in his division that he knows could put his lights out. Whereas Belal Muhammad, he's willing to face anyone. Literally, JDM, who's number 5 ranked in the welterweight division, who arguably didn't even deserve this, who is just filling in for Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, JDM's dangerous with the boxing. We know that he has very accurate punching, pretty decent power, let's be honest. And ultimately, he also has really good knees, and his jiu-jitsu is really underrated. His ability to sprawl, and maybe not sprawl, but um, you know, uh, these jujitsu entanglements, these scrambles, I should say, these moments where Bilal is moving from position to position. JDM is really good at figuring out what he needs to do to get from point A to point B to get ultimately back up to his feet. The problem here is Bilal is just better with takedowns than a Islam Makhachev, than a Khabib. I mean, Khabib's close, but he's just better. Let's be honest. He's praising these guys too much. He should recognize that he's one of the greats. I think he will be truly, unless he loses to Shafkat, which is a very real possibility. But amazing takedowns, great double legs, great single legs, um, dunking Leon Edwards. I mean, he just has such a variety of takedowns. And then when he gets down there, yes, he's not quite as good in the BJJ in holding you down in control, I would say, as a Gilbert Burns, but it's very, very close. And Bilal is still an expert at locking that body triangle. He does it almost as good as anyone else. He has decent enough boxing, I feel. I honestly feel like he's going to outbox JDM in at least one of the rounds. And I ultimately see this being listen, he is a decision merchant, but he's better, I think, at more styles, at more atmospheres and more styles of MMA, of the wrestling, the boxing, the grappling, the jiu-jitsu, the kickboxing, than an Islam Makhachev. I truly believe he's better than him. I just think that he gets way too underrated, and Islam Makhachev, a guy like him, for example, gets way too much credit for beating these guys that are more older, while Bilal is fighting these guys in their prime, for the most part, and he's doing it convincingly and dominating in dominating fashion. And I think he's going to get it done in a pretty clear, unanimous, dominating fashion here as well. I'm surprised that he's actually went down to only a what minus 90, 190. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go with a clear-cut 49-46 unanimous across the board. I think JDM, whether it be I'm gonna say a maybe a middle rounds thing. I know that some people are gonna think, oh, he's gonna start strong, but I honestly think he's gonna be a bit hesitant. I think that Bilal is showing way more confidence leading up to this, and I think he's gonna try and have a feeling out process JDM, and I think one of the middle rounds, round 2 to 4, one of those rounds he's gonna have um, a little more confidence, and he's gonna you'll realize, hey, I've actually got to go for this. And I think he's going to get enough shots in one of those rounds to bank one of those rounds in the bag. But ultimately, Bilal is going to get enough of those rounds, at least 3. I'm going to say 4, though, pretty unanimously. And JDM's definitely going to have his moments on the feet, but it's not going to make up for the control time and what Bilal Muhammad does on the ground. And even on the striking, I think he's going to do enough where the judges are like, well, JDM landed a little bit more on the boxing, but Bilal landed a few good ones too, and he even got some control time and a back take. And we know that the back take is pretty decent in MMA. I mean, people gave Islam Makhachev a whole round against Volkanovski, even though he landed half the strikes in that round, or even less than half. I'm still not gonna, give that fight to Islam Makhachev. I'm still gonna talk about that. That was a brutal robbery. I don't care. But Bilal is not ever going to get robberies because he makes sure that he secures rounds off of control, off of back takes. Sure, against Leon, he kind of rushed it, but I think he's going to get it done, and I think he's going to have a pretty clear-cut, unanimous decision. So yeah, I mean, I quite like Bilal as well. I love his trash talk, and I like that he's repping Palestine. I quite respected that in quite a few regards. I like that he's, you know, I think he's a good role model, honestly. And he's only trash talking because these other guys are trash talking him first, for the most part, and I quite like it. So I mean, yes, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and Mask of MMA out.